Ooh, wow. Are you me but in an alternate universe? Since we're both Spider-Man, I'm assuming you can pretty much do the same thing, right? Well, can you do this? Wait, what? What was that? Spidey wings, activate!
Training protocol still active. Still not mature enough to fly.
Hello, darkness, my old friend. I've come to talk with you again.
Hello and welcome back to the KenOhwee Channel. Today's episode is featuring everyone's friendly neighborhood, Spider-Man from Spider-Man Homecoming. Finally, S.H Figuarts made a Spider-Man figure, and I'm sure everyone, including me, can't wait to find out what this figure has in store. So without further ado, let's find out. But first, taking a look at his nicely designed box with the red and blue theme with the webbing effect at the back. Nothing much at the side of the box apart from the name and a sneak peek of the character in action. And at the back of the box, you have Spider-Man in his action glory. Look at all those poses, I can't wait to test them out myself. And you have the highlights of this figure shown on the side, which are his interchangeable eyes and also his butterfly joints and ab crunch. It's Spider-Man, you're supposed to have those. Also, they showcased his cell phone and bag, but these pictures are extremely tiny, so let's open him up and find out for ourselves. Welcome to the show, Peter Parker. Ooh mama, look at all those hands and that figure. Ooh la la, I'm in love. Look at him. Doesn't he look so beautiful? Look at that face sculpt. This is one good looking Spider-Man. However, if I were to be extremely nitpicky, I'd say this face is not 100% accurate to what's depicted in the movies, and I'll elaborate my point. As you can see from the still, Spider-Man eye seems to be more recessed inwards, and also there's more curvature in his eye design in the movies, whereas for this figure, due to the fact they're doing interchangeable eyes, it's obvious that his eyes are protruding out a little, and also the design is sharper in its edges, which forms a more triangular shape, which is more comic accurate than movie accurate. However, this is just my humble opinion. I'm sure others have their own opinion as well as to how accurate this face looks. Either way, I still think this Spider-Man face looks great. They even molded the bumps for his nose and ears. S.H Figuarts, you freak, but I love you. This figure is sculpted, molded and painted beautifully. He even has texture throughout his suit. His spider logo very neatly done, down to his hidden Tom Holland six packs, and they even molded his web cartridge and also his web shooters. My god, them details. His stripes throughout his suits, which is painted a darker blue, which stands out from his base blue just like in the movies, and webbing detail ever so subtle but distinct in its appearance. Looking at his back, you got the red spider logo design. Moving down to his behind, which is another thing I also like to point out, is the amount of cuts on his solid behind. It does serve its purpose in providing a full range of motion, however it does look like Spider-Man is wearing a thong from this angle. Again, it doesn't bother me at all, but I thought I'd just point it out, but if I ruined it for you, I apologize. Going down to his boots, and they even molded the webbing on his sole. Overall, the issues I mentioned doesn't change the fact that this figure turned out looking absolutely beautiful. Extremely well sculpted and painted, and the details really make this figure stand out from the rest. Moving on to his articulation. Before we begin, I'd like to address a few minor gripes that I have with this figure, and first one is the exclusion of a bicep cut. I just can't seem to understand why they wouldn't have a bicep cut on their figures, as it would provide more natural range of movement. If their argument is that they want to have less cuts on their figures so they look more presentable, it just doesn't apply to this figure, as he already has plenty of cuts everywhere else. But they did have an arm swivel as compensation, which I think it provides more hassle when it comes to this figure's articulation, as you need to make sure it's tucked into the joint as you swivel them to allow more range of motion, and it just doesn't seem as smooth as just having a bicep swivel. The second gripe is that even though his elbow is connected using a peg, it doesn't really rotate, even though technically speaking it should be able to, but I like to advise collectors to not try it, as I did try and rotate it, which resulted in my Spider-Man arm being a little loose after doing so. So please play with caution, and you have been warned. So it's also a shame they didn't have a forearm rotation, which would have helped compensate the lack of bicep rotation, and all we have to rely on for swivels is the arm, which still does the job to a certain extent. So head and neck is connected on a ball joint so he can look up and down, left and right, and pivots, so he has plenty of head movement. He has an inner arm joint which is connected by a ball joint, so it gives him a butterfly joint, and it also moves up and down, so plenty of motion there as well. His arm can move outwards that far, but with the help of the inner arm it pushes it out further. You'd have to tuck his shoulders inside the arm joint to allow for the outwards movement, or you'll be hindered by it. He has the arm swivel, double jointed elbows, wrist does the 360 and moves up and down. He has the upper and lower ab cut which allows him to crunch forward, and they also painted the joint exposed as he is crunching, which is great. He can arch backwards that far, he can do the twist king on the upper and lower ab, and he has plenty of pivots. All that crunching really paid off. Here comes the badass booty. His inner hips move up and down, his leg can also move up and down, so in total he can kick up about that far. Look at that high kick. And he can kick back about that far. He can high back kick, look at that. He can do the splits for sure. He has a thigh cut swivel, double jointed knees, feet move up and down and pivots. And he also has the 360 and also the twinkle toes. So yeah, SHF Spiderman really set the articulation bar extremely high when they came out with their first figure, which was the Amazing Spider-Man action figure. It was one of the most posable Spider-Man figure at the time, and I have to say this figure could rival SHF Spider-Man in posability. Even though I mentioned a few gripes earlier, do not get me wrong, I still think this figure has a great amount of articulation. I'm just saying it would have made it easier for this figure to pose or made the arm posing look more natural with the presence of arm cuts mentioned earlier. Moving on to his haul of accessories. Look at all those accessories. Accessory haven. Wait a minute. No Tom Holland interchangeable head? No. Why? It's alright. I can let it slide because they gave 6 pairs of additional hands. Yes, you heard me. 6. Mamma mia. But before we get to that, let's talk about his big accessories first. So starting with his secret high-tech, fashion-breaking school bag. Yeah, it's just a normal looking school bag. I was just exaggerating the first part. Nicely sculpted and painted as usual, and to equip Peter with the bag, you just pop out the left handle, wrap it over. There's a peg on the back of the bag which is connected to the back of Peter, which is covered by this red hexagon on his red logo. Please play with caution when removing this peg, as it took me a while and I had to use a pair of scissors as it was stuck in pretty tight with my figure. And also keep it safe because, as you know, these things magically disappears when you're not paying attention, and you'll be left with this big hole at the back of Spider-Man. So peg the bag at the back and sling the handle over and peg it back, and you'll have Spider-Man carrying his bag. Tongue twister. Back, 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 back. Okay. There's also a peg provided where you can peg this peg onto a Tamashi stand if you have it, and peg that into the back of Spider-Man, and you can have him pose with the stand. He also comes with a cell phone, which is just a black square with a shiny blue finish to represent the screen, and he comes with 3 web effects, so starting with the shorter premature web shooting effect. You also have the much longer web shooting effect, and also you have the web swing effect, which is held by Peter instead of being equipped. So to equip the first 2 effects, simply remove his hand, place the web over his joint and peg the hand back to seal it tight to have the effect of Spider-Man shooting out his webs. So moving on to his 6 additional pairs of hands. Starting with his fisted hands, which he already comes with because, of course, you gotta beat up some bad guys. And a pair of web shooting hands, relaxed hands to grab or save people, the web swing effect holding hands, a bottoms up or call me maybe hand gesture, web crawling hands, and cell phone holding hands. And to place the cell phone on these hands, there's a gap which indicates where the cell phone sits on, and tuck it into his fingers for stability, and you have Peter on his cell phone. I've even tested with the Yamaguchi Gwen's cell phone, it works rather well too. Lastly, in his arsenal of accessories, you have his interchangeable eyes. You have his base eyes, the second pair is slightly closed, however it looks slightly similar to the base one, and lastly you have the Asian eyes. I meant to say squinty eyes. Yeah, that doesn't sound any better. Anyway, it's unfortunate they missed out on the eyes wide open one. And I would have exchanged the second pair of eyes with the bigger eyes, as the second one looks similar to his base eyes. Then you have all eyes for every occasion, but still glad they provided with 2 extra set of interchangeable eyes. And you can mix and match them any way you want. To change his eyes, simply remove his head. Slenderman. And they provide you with a plastic stick where you can push the eyes out and replace them with the desired eyes. When placing the head back, make sure that the eyes are aligned with these two linear gaps and simply push the head down. If you didn't align them, or if you place the head the wrong way, it'll result in his eyes popping out, which could be another way of pushing his eyes out, but again, it'll be at your own risk and I wouldn't recommend it as it may cause some damage to the peg on his eyes. Man, that's a lot of accessories. I'm out of breath. So yeah, it would have been super awesome if they did provide the eyes wide open, or the Tom Holland interchangeable head, or even the half unmasked head, but that would be just a bonus as the accessories given in this package is plentiful and I'm extremely happy with it. Bandai definitely didn't disappoint. I mean 6 pairs of hands! Here's a height comparison with other Spider-Man figures, and S.H Figuarts as usual is the shortest figure of the bunch, with Mayfax being the tallest, and here's another standing next to Cap and Iron Man. I still say his height is justified since he's technically still a kid, so he shouldn't be towering over Tony or Steve or even come close. So, in summary, I feel I was being extremely critical with this figure throughout this video, but that's only because I'm sure everyone, including myself, has such a high expectation for this figure. I mean, it's a Spider-Man action figure, and I was making sure that I didn't miss any detail when talking about this figure, but when it's all said and done, despite all the gripes that I mentioned earlier, which I think are extremely minor, it doesn't change the fact that I still believe this package is amazing. Beautifully sculpted and painted, great amount of articulation and plenty of accessories given, which maximizes the playability of this figure. If you are a fan of the movie or even the character himself, I'm sure you will not be disappointed with this figure. I had a lot of fun posing it, playing with it and talking about it, and I'm just ecstatic that I have this figure in my collection. Your move, Mayfax. Looking forward to talking about your version come October. That concludes today's figure talk. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, please leave a like, that would really help me and that would be amazing. Do let me know your thoughts on this figure in the comment section down below. I'd really like to know your opinions as well. Share it with me, share it with the world. And if you're new to this channel, welcome, and hit that subscribe button for more toys video in the future. Thank you guys very much for watching, and once again, I hope you guys are embracing the inner Spidey within you and having fun. Have a great week and I'll see you guys at the next video.
Click here to enjoy more videos.